of the HT Dialogues. Self-esteem, as we all know, is the overall opinion a person has about themselves, how they perceive their abilities, their worth, and their self-confidence. In a world that continually challenges adolescence, where self-doubt and external pressures can weigh heavily on young minds, understanding the importance of cultivating positive self-esteem becomes paramount. Today, we will be discussing on the topic nurturing confidence and self-esteem in students. We welcome the panelists for today, Miss Anuradha Handa, founder, principal, GD Goenka Public School, Sector 48, Gurugram. Welcome, ma'am. Miss Nita Arora is the director at Sri Venkateshwar International School, Sector 18, Dwarka. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us today.
What a pleasure it is to be here.
Ms. Rupal Jasraj Patel is a child psychologist, counselor, and founder of Only Parenting. Good afternoon and welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Pleasure to be
I
here.
would like to start with you, Ms. Patel. What is the ideal definition of positive self-esteem and how does it help in the overall development of students?
So I would not think there is an ideal definition per se. Like you said, self-esteem is how we think, how we feel about ourselves, and which can change based on our moods, situations, the achievement, the approval of others. It's not something which is stable and consistent. The more accomplished I think I am, the more I think I believe in myself. The more I believe in my own potential, my own ability to learn, my talents, the capability to maybe kind of make a difference to others. All that kind of gives rise to a positive self-esteem where you're feeling the positive self-esteem would be feeling satisfied and content with themselves if we have to look for a definition. Being happy being you, where you value yourself and you feel good that I can do anything. And, in terms of helping them with, their development, I think a child who has a positive self-esteem will feel confident, will feel that I can try new things, I can do more things. They'll have a growth mindset. When you have a high self-esteem, you will face anything, even if things are not going your way. You'll be motivated to persevere. That resilience will be there in the face of failure. You even if you fail and if you feel you need somebody's help, you will step up, you'll stand up, you'll ask for that help. And but you will persevere till you get to your goal, whichever way. You'll have that sense of control also. You'll feel so. I think we just, when we have a high self-esteem, we feel content, right? So in that contentment, when you feel good in your own space, taking responsibility for what goes wrong is also fine. Trying new things is also fine. But great relationships happen where relationships are not working out. You're fine with that also. So that overall perception of yourself is contentment, it's positivity, it's courage. So even peer pressure, for example, you don't kind of get swayed in that direction, right? So I think there are so many aspects to it, but mainly it boosts your confidence, your motivation, your relationships, and you have this kind of mental well-being, if I may, use that word.
Yeah, I love that what you've just said. It's a state of being content in every which way. Yeah. So adolescents, of course, try and figure out their unique identity in this period of physical, emotional, mental, and social changes, that they go through in these teens. As adults who interact with them daily, I think it is important for us to understand the origin of self-esteem in students as well. Yeah. So, Ms. Patel, continuing with you, where does self-esteem in students typically originate? You did touch upon peer pressure, etc. But if we could in detail hear from you, where does this really originate and what do you think are the external factors that heavily influence it?
So self-esteem, is like a byproduct of self-worth. Self-worth is how I value myself, my abilities, and self-esteem will be how I think and feel about myself. So self-worth, the more you feel that self-worth is high, self-esteem is bound to be there. But of course, like you said, like we discussed earlier in the topic, that your interactions with others, the experience, the environment, that also makes a huge difference. So the self-esteem origination again can come from many ways. Also from something like how well do I know myself? When I kind of self reflect and I'm aware of my strengths and weaknesses, the more I'm aware, the stronger my self esteem will be, because I know what I can and what I can't do. uh, it of course originates in the home environment. The more loving the environment, the more stronger the bonds parents have with their children, the better the self-esteem. How loved, because that feeling of being loved, feeling of security, feeling of knowing that no matter what, somebody is there for me, self-esteem automatically, that gives you that confidence. Even when you belong to a particular group, right? Belonging is a very, I think, a very inherent quality of every human, right? Wanting to belong. So whether you're belonging to your family, whether you're feeling that sense of belonging in a community, in a club, in a group of friends, that increases self-esteem. Another way of looking at it could be, when I try something and I accomplish it, one notch the self-esteem goes up, which again comes to parents and teachers, and how you can encourage every child to kind of do their best in everything. And every time a child goes that one step higher and one step further, they feel, okay, I can do it. When they fail, how are parents and teachers dealing with that failure? That external factor makes a big difference in their self-esteem. How are they encouraging them? How are they, appreciating and helping them develop that growth mindset, helping them believe in themselves? That builds again self-esteem. Again, how others react to
No, I
you,
think so.
not
Sorry. I think I
sorry,
would
sorry.
like to just come in, Ms. Patel. I think
Yeah.
I didn't probably didn't word it correctly. What I meant really was by originate, as in what could be the reasons that could lead to a low self-esteem. Like a lot of
Ah,
criticism, constant criticism.
okay.
It could be domestic or chronic abuse at home place. Peer pressure. Those times,
Absolutely.
looking at really the
Okay.
factors that cause
Okay.
it.
Cause low self-esteem you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I think that would exactly be all the opposite things of what I just said,
yeah,
right? Like it would
yeah,
be, it would kind of stem from not having great relationships. Parents, the bonding is not there. That feeling of being loved and secure, that is not there. When there is constant comparisons happening, when especially whether in school, whether at home, when you're comparing, whether between siblings or in class,
yeah.
every person is so unique in their own way. And when you compare, you are kind of pitching them against each other. And a lot of, at least with parents, and since 22 years of parenting, to see, every time I worked with parents, and I've seen that comparison always coming in, and that comparison is always going to lead to a sense of self-esteem, even when you're not, say, when you're discouraging them. Most parents want to encourage kids. Unfortunately, they're not even aware when they are discouraging. And there are so many ways.
Yeah,
That's like a whole different topic to get into. But every time there is discouragement, self-esteem is going down one notch. It's really not helping. Again, when people are sometimes when there are no boundaries and people can just tell you anything and you're okay with it, and you don't have the courage to stand up for yourself, that's a vicious cycle, right? Because low self-esteem leads to low courage, and then you don't have the courage, your self-esteem is going even lower, and that kind of keeps going round and round. And then you start, and the mentally you are not again aware of your own desires, your own wants, your own strengths, your own weaknesses, your own boundaries. And because you have not set them or you're not aware of them, anybody is telling you anything and getting away with it. So
yeah,
a lot of these, there are a lot of factors which will keep hitting you, because you're not, like, that self awareness again becomes very, very important. Because when that self awareness is there, you will not allow the externals to touch you. Like we spoke about contentment, that contentment is just not there at that point, because I'm just trying to maybe doing people pleasing all the time, trying to please one person or the other
true,
person, or
true.
and that again reduces your self esteem. So I hope
Yeah.
now I got the
No,
question
no, you
right.
got, of course, no.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
my mistake. So,
Yeah.
actually, there are also, of course, a lot of other reasons that we all read, and I'm sure, those that we all know of are, there is chronic abuse and criticism you did touch upon.
Yeah.
Domestic violence could be something that kids see all the time
Absolutely.
in some homes. There could be something that's known as, and you would know better, adverse childhood experiences.
Hmm. Hmm.
Akin to what they're experiencing at home. And of course, in particular, two factors really, and which I would want to discuss in detail, is the first one is really that of peer pressure, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something that can really be traumatizing for kids. And when kids make attacks of identity on each other, or they bully or penalize someone. So Miss Arora, coming to you, peer pressure can be a real challenge for kids. How can students effectively navigate peer pressure to ensure it doesn't negatively impact their self-esteem and overall well-being?
Peer pressure could be both positive and negative. If your peers make you excel, I mean, you are not comparing yourself with them, but they motivate you to do better. So I wouldn't say any kind of pressure is always bad. I mean, whatever we are in life, because we wanted to improve ourselves, we put a little more of pressure on ourselves, something that we know we can tackle, and a little more than what we can tackle, and made us go beyond our zone of comfort, and we became better. So we have to teach our children that all pressures are not bad. Otherwise, this age group is thinking, oh, my mother is forcing me, my friends are forcing me, my teacher is forcing me, I am going to fail. I don't want to do it, I'm being forced. We have to tell them nobody is forcing you, child. You want to be the best version of yourself, and we want to see you flourish. So peer pressures, I mean, in schools can happen in various ways. One is a positive one in which you try to excel, and the second is where the peers are putting you down. They're teasing you, they're calling you names, they're trying to compare you, your social status, your physical looks, the body shaming also, which happens, that can actually bring down the self-esteem of children. So how do the children tackle such kind of remarks, or obscene remarks, vulgar remarks, sad remarks? Is one, to have a positive self-esteem is to be honest to yourself. You should have a positive self-worth. And if you know what you are and you like what you are, there would be at least some people in your life who will say you are very nice the way you are. Remember them, remember all the positive people in your life, and you will never be able to feel low because of certain negative remarks. And people who are using negative remarks for you at one point of time, if you make it your life's mission that I am continuing to be a nice person, irrespective of how the others behave with me, and then I'm going to win over all my critics by my sheer work, things are possible. That's another way of looking. And sometimes we have to ignore. Sometimes we have to actually shun out some people's remarks and not be bothered about them. So there are different ways of looking at how you handle pressure. And best is to either face it or to ignore it.
Yeah, I know, and but at that young age, it's very difficult to ignore. It becomes such a touchy issue.
No, I keep
I
giving
wish.
examples, like there's a kid in my school, grade 7. He says some children are spoiling his name. They're calling him by another. I mean, they spoil his surname and it irritates him. I said, the more you get irritated, more you will become the butt of their jokes. The day you start ignoring and you're not affected, you would rather add a rhyme to your own name, which can actually take it one step forward. They will lose any interest in teasing you because you're getting affected. That is why they're teasing you.
Absolutely. And if he doesn't get it impacted, they will get affected. That, why is he not reacting to
And
it?
then we talk to all of the children also, that peers, the other students who do not like any child being bullied or pressurized or troubled, they should stand up for the victim. If the friend circle
Absolutely.
is intelligent enough to say that by giving tacit support, by either remaining quiet or laughing at silly jokes, you are giving more truth to the people who are bullying others, then I think the classes will be have psychologists amongst them, and the children who are trying to trouble others would probably take a back seat and learn to mind their own business. In fact, their self-esteem has to be raised through positive experiences. They do this because they have been, as you said, faced childhood abuse, or they, when they grow up, they do something like that. You talk to bullies of your class, you find, and I mean, take them aside and find, why do you trouble somebody? So you find out that they are the many scars which haven't healed so far. So heal those scars of your bullies, and the school would be a better place, and peer pressure would probably come down. Rupal is thinking, yes. And what do you have to say, Rupal, about it?
No,
Let's have
absolutely. Yeah, you can have Anuradha, ma'am. I think I'm.
Anuradha, but we'd like to have your views on it.
Yeah, for sure. So, Nita ma'am, absolutely right. How we empower the children for them to take up any situation. It's more about, on one hand, sensitizing everyone in the environment, and on the other hand, empowering children in the environment. And I think that's the best way to develop a positive self-esteem in children, because the more I know who I am, the more you give them that confidence, the child, you stand for what you are. Like you said, if somebody is kind of shaming you or making fun of your name, all you have to do is accept it. Don't, if you feel somebody is going to make fun of your name, I think you should show that confidence and you make a rhyme around it and say, all right, I'm enjoying it. So when you exhibit that confidence, it raises your self-esteem on one hand, and it keeps all such people away from you. I mean, we've seen, I think one big example I would like to name here is in the film industry. If you look at Shah Rukh Khan, I mean, we've seen on so many platforms that, he just speaks about himself so freely that we feel that, oh, can you do that? So you don't have to hold yourself. That's something that we have to tell our children, that carry confidence in yourself, respect yourself, and you'll never be troubled.
Another thing that children must know is to say no. They know what is right and what is right. So,
yeah.
So good to hear that, while, of course, navigating.
Try smoking separately.
Yeah. I like that what you said, Ms. Arora and Ms. Handa, that, while navigating peer pressure is indeed a critical skill, given the examples that you were sharing. I think equally important is the factor of managing societal and parental expectations as well.
Oh, yes.
Coming to you, Ms. Handa, we often hear about the impact of parental expectations on a child's self-esteem. Could you shed some light on how these expectations can lead to low self-esteem?
So, expectation is one word which is a very tight rope that one has to walk in life. Whether it is having expectations from others or fulfilling the expectations that people have from you. So in the context of the expectations of parents from children, I would, like to say that when it comes to expectations, the parents have to find out what is the right expectation. Because to not have expectation is also not right. Because somewhere the child always looks up to the parents in terms of appreciation, in terms of that, yes, is my parent happy with my action? That reassurance is something that children always want from their parents. But as parents, somewhere we have to understand that, we don't start burdening our children with their expectation. Because if you over-expect from your child, in the process, somewhere you are making the child believe, that you're not worth it, in terms of, even if you're not telling the child, but the child starts feeling like that. There is this doubt of self-worth comes in the child. And that's where the burden of expectation starts lowering the self-esteem of the child. So while we, as parents, we have to, definitely have our children doing well, taking care of themselves, making their life a happy life, which surely they need guidance and support for. But at the same time, if we are doing it at the cost of their confidence, if we are doing it at the cost of their self-belief, it is going to lower their esteem. And in the process, what happens is that whatever the child is capable of doing, or whatever is the potential of the child is not able to, reach up to that potential. It could go in two directions. One is that I'm doing things, but I am not believing in what I'm doing. So I may go on a journey as a child up to a certain distance, but not beyond that. So these expectations will either make the child an average performer, because you are making your parents happy, you are somehow doing what you are doing, but that something that you're doing doesn't belong to you. On the other hand, it could make the child a rebellion, and as a result, the child might go into a guilt zone, because he's not able to do what the parents want him to do, but he's not ready to accept also. And as a result, the child might simply, start behaving in a way that either goes into the guilt zone, that, I'm not able to make my parents happy, or might become a simple rebel. So I think to be able to strike that balance of the expectation from the child is what the parents really need to be particular and careful about. Otherwise, we are pushing the child into a direction where probably the whole life will go away and the child will never be able to discover his or her true self and will not be able to experience that happiness that they so deserve and desire. And we desire as parents. So that's my take.
And that's a lesson for parents as well, and which is what we were talking before we started this formal discussion, with Ms. Patel on parenting lessons for parents also. So that's a crucial point that you've made, that needs to be considered. And having understood the key factors that could lead to low self-esteem, let us understand from Ms. Patel the key indicators or red flags to watch in a child struggling with low self-esteem. Ms. Patel.
Yeah, so there are lots of them, but I think sometimes when you'll see a child who will say, I can't do this, I don't think I'm capable enough, or this is just not possible, and that's basically coming from a space of, because I don't know if I'll succeed, right? I might fail. So that unwillingness is there to try new things, or even if they try, at the first sign of failure or at the first stumble that they encounter, they want to give up, because they find it very difficult to cope with that failure. They find it very difficult to cope with that obstacle that has come. Also, they may talk about themselves in very negative ways. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I really can't do it. Or, that one is so much better than me. I'm so ugly. They're comparing themselves to others. They're overly concerned with others' opinions of themselves. What do you think? Like, okay, do you think this? Do you really think this? Do you think I can do it? They're constantly trying to get approval, that approval seeking, that, getting that somebody approves of them is very, very important. So then they start doing things only to please others. They're not even looking at whether they're feeling good about it, not good about it. And that's where peer pressure comes in. They are, they're completely swayed into peer pressure. At times they'll be, even mood swings. Some of them will seem very overly depressed, sad, anxious, stressed. All those emotions take over. Even they find it, difficult to accept criticism or even accept praise, for that matter. If you appreciate them, they say, no, I'm not that good. Like, well, what are you talking about? Or if you criticize them, they'll just lash out and get defensive. They're not able to accept that criticism, even when it's constructive criticism. Or they'll, anywhere they get stuck, somebody else is at fault. The parent is at fault, the teacher is at fault, the friend is at fault, the sibling is at fault. They are not wrong. So they'll keep putting the blame on other people. And, obviously when that happens, relationships suffer. They will, even when you appreciate and when you encourage them, sometime when that self-esteem is low, they'll try to, downplay that also. Sometimes even not accepting that, no, that was not a big deal. Like, what did I do? Like, that value in themselves is only not there. So all these, there are many, many, many more. Even when they, miss out on school things, or you will see that they are not completing their work on times in terms of students. In school, when the teachers see that they are missing work, homework is not being completed because I don't feel I'm good enough. So I don't feel I can do it. I don't want to participate in things because I won't be good at it even if I participate. I won't volunteer for any auditions because, again, I don't think I can manage. So all, I think, of these indicators, they're very small indicators, but when you see them together, you will realize that this is a case of even a shy child, right? I think that's a fine line which happens between this child is very shy. There's a very fine difference between somebody who's shy and who has a low self-esteem. I mean, an introvert, rather, not even shy. When you say an introvert is very content with themselves. They're very happy being an introvert. They're very happy in their own space. But a person whose self-esteem is low is not being happy in their space. They're not maybe participating in that game or that event or that party out of, I won't be accepted, or how can I do this? So again, it's a very fine line. And I think only when you observe that child for a longer time can you actually make out that it is low self-esteem.
True. And recognizing these subtle signs of low self-esteem is, I think, pivotal for timely intervention, both by parents and educators as well. So, Ms. Arora, are our educators adequately trained to recognize these signs of low self-esteem? And could you share some strategies or practices they employ to address this issue? I mean, do give us some examples.
What a beautiful question, because you are coming to the crux of the problem, Rupal, and you agree that sometimes the problem for the lower self-esteem is not only just self assessment of the child. It is the other's assessment of the child, which could be a parent or a teacher. In schools, if the teachers are nurtured with love, when the teachers have a high self-esteem, they're allowed to make mistakes and they're not held responsible for those mistakes, but given a chance to improve. Believe me, they'll do the same with the children in classes. When a leader or a school system is such which castigates a teacher who's made a mistake, the teacher will go and repeat the same action in classes. So we have to build the self-esteem of the teachers as well as give them the courage that in your class there would be children of various achievement levels. We have no problems with that. The only thing is you teach and you assess, but before you do the final assessment, do many times self-assessment of your own teaching and don't blame the child in case they have not given the results you seek. Teach the way the children learn. You will experiment and the children will be able to learn. Believe me, nothing, I mean, at least till grade 8, nothing in the books is so tough that the child of average intelligence cannot learn. But at the same time, there would be some children who will have a phobia of a certain subject. And I mean, year after year, they do not do well in a particular subject. And if a teacher or a parent had not been kind and brings down the self-esteem of the child, we have to look for other areas in which the child is amazing. And there would be, I had a child who never did well in social science, but when 10th grade, we discovered her love for photography, and she is an amazing photographer. The teachers were made to see that this girl from another way, and she was made the head of photography club in 11th. And from that day onward, that girl had such a positive self-esteem that she started doing well in all subjects, including political science that she's taken. She did not do like 90%, but 72% was very good for her, somebody who used to fail in 8th, 9th. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you think of these examples, like the children could, marks is one criteria because of which parents and teachers castigate the children. So if we say marks are not the only way we're going to judge you, children could be very good in various other ways. Then a lot of children are shy of public speaking. And this is one area that parents want their children to be amazing. So the school teachers, first of all, you allow your school teachers to also have public speaking skills. I'm not talking about being able to teach in a class. So let's have some, like we have staff behas in English as well as yesterday we did jam, just a minute, in Hindi too. So if your teachers are ready to be exposed in front of everybody, the child would also not feel shy. In our school, the children do staff behas. They organize it. The teachers participate. They judge us. So same way, the reverse happens in class. The teachers are forever judging the children. Now they're ready to be judged by children. So the child feels there's nothing wrong being judged by others or to be not called that great, because ultimately we enjoy speaking. Whether we win or lose, that is minor. Second is fear of losing out. So for example, you're playing a game and you're worried about losing, so you do not give your best. If that fear is not there, but you're making the children and the teachers enjoy the game. So organize some games in which teachers and students pitch against each other, so that our factor that the teacher is only there to castigate me or to correct me or to check me or to assess me would go away, and they'll start seeing teacher as somebody who believes in them, who's like a friend, who's there to help them grow further. And in the process, the teachers are also growing. When the teachers are ready to accept themselves as co-learners, there's so many ways in which children are better than us. Believe me, it really boosts. You make a child teach a certain lesson, so I couldn't have taught it this way. Believe me, this child will be on cloud 9. Next time he'll come more prepared when you assign a lesson to him. So stop comparing. This is another thing that we make a cardinal mistake. So and so is so good, and this class, these children are not good. So remove that fear of comparison, and that can only happen when the heads also stop comparing teachers. So what you want your teachers to do, start doing that as a school head.
Absolutely.
Or as a parent also. Please tell your parents also, what if you want your child to be known as an amazing singer, dancer, speaker, but he's not. So please do understand, are you all three? If you're not, allow your child to also have, let it be a jack of everything, not necessarily master of anything. So if you're a jack of everything, believe me, life is so beautiful. You can sing, dance, enjoy yourself.
So we're coming to parents.
Master something, nothing like it.
We will come to parents, Miss Arora, and I think that was beautifully, wonderfully said that, to power the self-esteem of teachers and educators, and they will in turn power the self-esteem and take care of the self-esteem of our students. I think that's brilliant, So, of course, our educators indeed play a pivotal role in enhancing the child's self-esteem. But of course, there also needs to be a good balance. Ms. Handa, how do our educators do that? I mean, how do they provide constructive praise, which is a part of boosting the child's self-esteem? So how do they provide constructive praise and support without unintentionally fostering an overinflated ego?
think very, very pertinent point brought about by, Ms. Nita Arora, that we need to empower our teachers for them to empower the children. The teachers need to hold themselves in high self-esteem for it to be taken forward to the children. But yes, so how do the teachers do it? I think I would rather like to bring about the school programs which will enable the teachers to be able to, do that with all fairness, so that you see, we can't, in a school setup, you can't leave it to an individual to be able to fairly, have a child being given opportunities. Those have to come more from the vision of the school and the school programs. So I would like to just, maybe if you permit me to Rupali, to just switch the question a little and take it more into the school systems, enabling the teachers and ultimately leading to that high self-esteem in children. So I can just give you the example that, for example, in a school setup, and if you now refer to NEP, it is being clearly said there that, there have to be ample opportunities for all children. The children have to be given, an equal kind of weightage to be given not only to the scholastic aspects and not only one type of learning, but a holistic approach, where every child, there is something for every child to take pride in, to have a high self-worth that we talk of. And that's something that leads you to a position of high self-esteem. And especially, when we are talking of when you try and develop a range in every individual, when you give them those exposures, when you give them that training of all aspects, for example, in a school setup, emphasizing equally on the co-curricular programs, on sports, on activities, on developing the life skills, on strengthening the value system of the child, and then appreciating and valuing children. We have programs, for example, if you have, let's say we have gracious Goenka. So children who are exhibiting very high value system, they are appreciated. So when children know that, what I do is valued, and it is not a singular unidimensional or a kind of a tunnel approach that there is light only at the other end of the tunnel, and that is your score. So somewhere when children have that opportunity to explore, to be trained fundamentally in all, and ultimately when they are at that adolescence age and teenage into the important years, helping children discover their strengths, helping children find out what is it, with which they connect strongly, giving them opportunities, a place where the children can be themselves. Because what makes you hold yourself in high self-esteem is that when I am kind of looked at and I'm appreciated and I'm valued for what I carry as an ability, as my value system, as my strengths. And definitely when children reach the age of 13, 14, 15 years, when they have to take independent and important decisions, there the role of the school and the teachers becomes even more important, where we are not just asking the children to maybe make a choice of their subject, to think about a career only based on, their score, where we are valuing the fundamental personality of the child, their other interest areas. So when you have your systems created like that, when we integrate subjects, when we bring, let's say, music and dance into the education as well, so that every aspect of a child's personality has, impresses upon or gives him that confidence, that's the only way, through school programs, through teachers, we will be able to strengthen the self-worth of the child and help the child, ensure that the children hold themselves in high self-esteem. In fact, if you allow me, I can give you an example of a very beautiful interaction that I had with a set of parents whom we had called. So we do this program in our school from grade 9, which is called I Discover Me. As part of this, we give children an insight into the options that they have in life and ask them to reflect upon themselves. And then, try and do a mapping of what do you connect with? What is it that you can do all your life and still feel energetic and happy. So there these parents had come who are both chartered accountants to just take a session with our children, and their child had joined us in grade 11 and had just moved to grade 12. So the parents said that, Mrs. Handa, what I really value is that in this 1 year, I have seen that my child has accepted himself. All these years, he was fighting with his personality. He was wanting to be someone, who he was not. And we could see that complex in him. But in this 1 year, what I really would like to compliment, is that the child has become comfortable with his own being. And that's what it is all about, holding yourself in high self-esteem. And I think as educators, as a school, we can definitely, of course, with the support of the parents and the society, we can surely build that high self-esteem in our children by helping them realize their worth, their value, and we value that. And of course, it all starts with teachers being valued and empowered and having that voice, so that gets carried away to the children. And the whole environment becomes vibrant with every individual valuing their self-worth. Because it's the whole environment which has to resonate in this.
Very well said.
Beautifully said, that the opportunities, providing opportunities for holistic development where kids can discover their potential, their talent, their strengths. I think that's massive, and that's what is really needed, so that each child discovers himself and outshines, or his his worth comes out, and they are so confident. Let's now hear from our experts on the impact that extensive exposure to social media has on self-esteem. Ms. Patel, what is your advice to educators and parents in helping students to navigate the online world while maintaining a healthy self-image?
I think first and foremost, I think it's the parents and educators who definitely should acknowledge that social media is here to stay. The kids today are born into a world that is filled with, the internet, the gadgets, everything is all the time. And yes, it is going to have an adverse influence on their self-esteem. But once you're aware that this is here to stay, the way you communicate it to the kids also will be different, right? You will find that middle balance, because in this world where kids are, I think, already so susceptible to the self-esteem, to the low self-esteem, low self-worth, so much in the environment, media just adds to it. It adds to the feeling of comparing to others. It adds to the feeling of, oh my God, I posted this picture and how many likes have I got and how many likes have you got, or I have not got likes, and self-esteem is just going up, down constantly. So I think parents need to first help them understand social media by giving them the pros and cons, whether it's parents or whether it's teachers, giving them what are the dangers of social media and what are the pros, and tell them that, yes, of course we need to use it. I think sometimes what happens with parents who have, over the years who have been working with, and they get very into the rigid space that, no, I will not allow them to use it. My child cannot have the access to a laptop or to the phone. And of course, COVID went and overturned the whole thing, right? Because education went online. So you had to do that. So you have to find that balance, which is why I said if they understand first that it's here to stay, they'll find that balance. Then they'll be able to communicating them, what are the dangers of social media? What are the, pros and cons? What is the protection you need to maintain? Don't put your information online. Don't share things. So keep reiterating that. While reiterating, I think if we can get, information, if it's available, with maybe newspaper articles, maybe stories, because that's the most convincing, right? Otherwise, you're just giving yarn to them and they are like, what is this? You're just going on talking. I don't want to listen. But when there is some concrete data and there are lots of articles which can be found, sharing something concrete with them, right? So that will help. Of course, all this will help when that relationship is strong, when that parent-child relationship or the student-teacher relationship is strong, because then they will want to listen to you. Then they will want to be influenced by you. Then they'll even give a ear to what you're trying to tell them. And when you tell them that, of course, you can use it, but use it safely, and then you're telling them how to use it safely, again, that's where they're listening. And, keeping those communication channels open, so that if something goes amiss while they're using it, they're feeling sad about something, even maybe if it's a post they posted and they didn't get enough likes, and they come and tell you, and if the response is going to be, see, I told you should not be doing this, they're not coming and talking to you again. Right? You need to also have that communication channels open where, okay, they're feeling sad, and help them navigate through those emotions and feelings to getting them to a space where they understand this is not what is determining my self-esteem. That's not who I am, right? I am who I am. Nobody knows. Or what the external world is projecting is not necessarily what they are. And that can actually be done as an activity where you actually find one of the handles of Instagram handles or a Facebook handle, and then find out about the person, because always what is projected onto social media is above and beyond, right? It's not a real life. It's only the best parts of life that are shown. So that feeling of lack which comes in when people see these posts and they feel, oh my God, they have this, but I don't, to make them realize that it's not that everybody has challenges and everybody goes through it. So kind of, working gradually in different ways. And of course, the most important crux being that building their self-esteem in everyday life, where you're going to, the power of encouragement. I mean, it's way underestimated, but that works in such a huge way, especially from parents. Because like I think Nita ma'am shared earlier, how, or Anuradha ma'am, one of you shared that how children look up to parents in such a huge way. Parents literally is God for them without realizing it. It's a very subconscious thing that if my parent approves, I'm great. If my parent disapproves, I'm not. They don't even realize that they're feeling that, because that connect is so strong and it's so important. So building and strengthening that relationship, then you will be able to create that influence, and then you have to keep building and strengthening that relationship for the rest of our lives. We need to do that.
So indeed, in today's age of filtered realities, as we know, unrealistic standards are often portrayed online, and this constant need for validation, like you just mentioned. So that's why the critical need to educate our teens about these realities. And I think we need to continue to encourage them, like you were saying, to curate their feeds also mindfully and follow inspiring and positive accounts as well. That could be another thing.
Yeah.
Ms. Handa, parents have a very important role to play in shaping. We did touch upon it during our conversation in various parts. So they do play a critical role in building a positive self-esteem for their child. What are some effective ways parents can promote, if you could highlight a few, to promote their self-confidence in children and within the family settings that we live in?
I think this is something that we've in tits and bits here and there we've spoken about it, but I'll try and put it all together.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
At every stage, maybe the parent will have a different role to play in building the self-esteem of the child. When in terms of when they are little ones, where they are looking for that, anything and everything that the parent, when what a child does. So for a parent to have that little appreciation and value for what the child is doing, positive affirmations when they are young, that stands important. And then gradually raising the bar for the child, like I said, realistically fixing the expectations from the child, positively telling when they are, when somewhere if they are going wrong or they're not understanding things correctly, not valuing what the children, are expected or meant to do. So putting even the most negative thing in a positive way and making them believe that, okay, if you're not able to do it now, doesn't matter. You will be able to do it. We will do it together. Being with them, somewhere challenging their abilities for sure. Because unless we will challenge the ability of the children, they will not enhance their self-worth. And ultimately, that enhancement of self-worth is what leads to a high self-esteem. So as parents, while we have to enhance the self-worth of the child, but we have to make sure that in the process of enhancement, we do not discourage them. We do not inflate, their ego, so to say, just because we do not want to hurt them. And somewhere, you see, the uniqueness of the child has to be valued. So what I was talking of as I Discover Me program in school is something that the parent has to play a role, where initially you have to give them that warmth and that cozy environment. But as the children grow up, you have to be a support and allow them to stand by themselves. Because we all, as parents, want our children to be independent. But do we give them that space to be independent? Do we support them constructively? So, as parents, I have to gradually make the child understand what is what are their core qualities, what is their worth, what is their liking, and push the child in that direction, so that at every stage of the life the child feels happy, content with what they are doing. They are realizing their potential, they are enhancing their self-worth, and they are going on a journey of developing a high self-esteem. And gradually then, you allow them to be more independent. Do not burden the children with your own expectations in terms of maybe what you wanted to do. And that is something that you are burdening the child with. So total no from that. And let the child go out in life, leave them free, allow them to complete, bring things to completion, and be with them. So the child should always have this feeling and a sense of security, but yet that belief that I can do it myself. So that kind of a balance, if the parent strikes with the child, I'm sure there will never be, the children will always hold themselves in high self-esteem and be with the children where if they're losing that confidence, rather than you also getting upset with something going wrong, which we do as parents very often. I would have done it many times as a parent, but yes, that's the time you have to hold yourself and support the child so that they develop that confidence and nothing then hurts them when they go out into that real world.
Sure. And I guess also for parents, while we're talking about how to address low self-esteem, another word, and I think Rupal would have liked to add it here, is that of course there will be issues. We will have children who will have self-esteem issues. They will continue because it's not a perfect environment. It's not, needless to say, educators doing their best, parents doing their best. It happens. And I think one word of advice for parents, and I've also seen it, seek therapy for your child. If he or she is facing any issues, I don't know, Rupal, if you want to add on that here, because I personally feel that's something which parents shy away from, right? Still in
Absolutely.
today's day and age, yeah.
I think the stigma against mental health really needs to be removed. I actually also work, as a consultant with Aditya Birla Education Trust, and we have a curriculum called Minds Matter, which is a mental health literacy curriculum for schools. Social, emotional, mental health literacy, and that works preventive. But like you said, there will be kids who have issues, and to understand that today, if I have a headache and I will go to a doctor, I feel I'll go to a doctor, I have a toothache, I'll go to a dentist. If I have a mental health issue, I need to go to a counselor, I need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, depending on the issue. And as you said, parents do shy away from it, but they shouldn't, because it's as normal as, having a toothache or a headache. It's not something which is, and the earlier the intervention is, the faster you will see the changes happening. So I think, in fact, I feel today's the children are actually more open to it. I think the schools are probably doing more, making them aware of these mental health conditions. And I think the pandemic has, of course, opened it up completely. So I think it is getting there, but it's a long way. And I think if each one does their bit and each one realizes and each one kind of creates that awareness, that stigma will get stamped out, because it is essential. If you are going through a certain mental health challenge, you do need to address it. And sometimes parents may feel, no, it's a passing phase, it's this, and that passing phase just multiplies and increases and increases. So people will have low self-esteem. So you will, and of course, there are some cases in that case where you will be able to deal with it at home, but you have to know the difference, right? You cannot keep being in denial about it.
No.
So I think that's very important.
Thanks. So, and having discussed the role that all stakeholders can play in shaping the self-esteem of a child, the discussion, I'm sure all of us will agree, would be incomplete without knowing what should the student themselves do to nurture their self-confidence and esteem. Again, we've spoken about in bits, but Ms. Arora, according to you, what are the 5 takes, quick 5 on your list as principles that students should keep in mind to cultivate and maintain a healthy and positive self-esteem for themselves?
All right. So the five are: know yourself and be kind to yourself. Be ready to accept failures, not only of your own, but of others too. So many times, children just cannot accept their parents failing or making a mistake. And that makes them feel all the while low about their family or their situation. So relabel all the upsetting thoughts with nothing. They're there so that you can restart your life again. They're not there to pull you down. And embrace failures, but at the same time, be kind to yourself and pay attention to personal care. So whenever children have a negative self-esteem for some reason and they're feeling low, they stop eating right, they stop worrying about body hygiene, they stop playing. I think that's the time when you should be playing more games to feel happy. Your endorphins should release more. You should feel content and happy with whatever the situation is. That will give you another energy to start again. And know how to use your free time. Most of the children who face negative self-esteem and lose confidence, they just sit idle or they waste their time doing something which will not be productive. I'm not saying every time you have to study. What I mean is you should have a hobby, the reading, music, listening to music, dancing, anything that makes you feel happy in a given situation which is not turning out the way you want it to be. And accept negatives of others. As you have some negatives, others can also have negatives. Be kind to them, be kind to yourself. Stop comparing, either in real life or on social media. I mean, I should not be talking about this forum, but there's a movie whose one dialogue I'm really very fond of. मैं अपनी बहुत बड़ी favorite हूँ. I'm not naming the movie. And if a child feels मैं अपनी favorite हूँ या हूँ, I mean, I'm a favorite. I love myself the way I am. I think the person would always feel positive and be happy in your own skin. You cannot be the best version of your own self. What to talk about becoming like somebody else. So if we can be the best version of ourselves, there's enough in this lifetime. And क्या फर्क पड़ता है कि मैं सबसे अच्छा नहीं गाती, सबसे अच्छा डांस नहीं करती, लेकिन सबसे अच्छी ऑडियंस हूँ मैं. I appreciate music. I appreciate good things in life. People want such people in life.
There's so much learning from me also today. I'm also learning so much.
मैं सबसे अच्छी लिस्नर हूँ, मैं आपकी सबसे बड़ी फैन बन सकती हूँ. वो अगर आप हैं तो आपको लोग पसंद करेंगे और लोग आपको पसंद करेंगे तो आप खुद को और भी ज्यादा पसंद करेंगे. So see the positives in other people. Then you will see positives in yourself too.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
में बहुत सारे बच्चे नाराज जिंदगी में इसलिए रहते हैं क्योंकि दे फील कि उनके पेरेंट्स से इतनी गलतियां की हैं उनको रेस करने में, और अभी भी कर रहे हैं. The teachers have this negative way of dealing with other children. किसी और बच्चों को डांट लगा रही है, आधी क्लास सहम जाती है. अब मेरे को तो नहीं पड़ेगी डांट. So I think we have to think that this teacher's made this mistake, that if ever I am in this position, I'll not be like this. So learn from others' mistakes, learn from others' positives, keep learning, enjoy life. Life is so beautiful. And you are there to play a role in it.
Absolutely. This was brilliant. So these guiding principles that have just been shared by our experts here serve as the key points for students on their journey towards developing self-confidence and a healthy self-image. And that brings us to the end of our discussion today. Adolescence is a vulnerable phase, and with the added pressures of today's world, self-esteem issues are more prevalent than ever. As a community, we owe it to our adolescents and need to equip them with critical skills they need to succeed socially and academically. As we conclude this discussion, we encourage parents, educators, and students alike to reflect on the valuable lessons and strategies discussed here today. Thank you all for joining us in today's Dialogues talk show, and we look forward to continuing these crucial conversations in the pursuit of brighter futures for our youth. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. May I give a passing message to all others who are our listeners? Not necessarily you have to be a teacher or parent to be kind. If you're a relative, you're a friend, you're a neighbor, please be kind to all the children in your community, not just your own biological children. It's so important. because children draw this strength from everybody they meet. Your relatives can be your biggest support, your friends, your neighbors. If you feel that some people are talking against you or criticizing you, they feel bad. So please be kind to all children. Then only we'll have a community of good, happy adults.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.